Ah, welcome back, you relentless survivors, you beautiful architects of your own resurrection, you souls who turned sacrifice into a weapon they never saw coming. They've been watching, haven't they? Watching you burn everything to the ground, watching you lose it all, watching you stand in the ashes with nothing but conviction and a spine made of something they couldn't break. They thought sacrifice meant defeat. They thought losing everything meant you were finished. They thought watching you fall would be the entertainment, the cautionary tale, the proof that their safe little path was the only way. But then something happened that shattered their entire understanding of power. You got back up. Not just up, but higher, stronger, sharper, with eyes that had seen the bottom and decided it was just another floor to build from. They watched you sacrifice relationships that no longer served you, watched you burn bridges to people who only showed up when you were sinking, watched you walk away from money, from comfort, from approval, from everything they worshiped like it meant nothing. And that's what broke their minds. The fact that you could lose everything and still carry yourself like you owned the world. They needed your sacrifice to destroy you, because if it didn't, then everything they believed about survival, about playing it safe, about never risking too much, was a lie. Let me tell you what really happened during those years when you were sacrificing everything while they watched with popcorn and predictions of your downfall. You were conducting an experiment they didn't understand. You were testing a theory they were too afraid to explore. You were answering a question most people never have the guts to ask. The question was this: what happens when you stop protecting the false version of yourself and let everything burn except the truth? What's left when you sacrifice comfort for growth? When you trade belonging for authenticity, when you choose the unknown over the familiar prison? They thought you were losing, but you were shedding, you were molting, you were becoming something they had no reference point for. They saw you sacrifice your reputation and called you reckless. They saw you sacrifice stability and called you irresponsible. They saw you sacrifice relationships and called you cold. But what they couldn't see, what they'll never see, is that every sacrifice was strategic. Every loss was calculated. Every burn was controlled. You weren't destroying your life. You were demolishing the cage. You were burning the costume. You were killing the version of yourself that was built to make them comfortable. And the whole time they were watching and judging and waiting for you to collapse. You were getting stronger in ways they couldn't measure with their broken instruments. Here's the part that haunts them now. The part that keeps them scrolling through your timeline at 3 a.m, trying to find the moment it all changed. You never begged for it back. You never crawled to retrieve what you sacrificed. You never looked at what you lost with regret painting your face. You walked forward like someone who knew the price and paid it gladly, like someone who understood that transformation costs everything and still said yes, like someone who would rather die authentically than live as an imposter. That's what terrified them, not your sacrifice, but your lack of mourning, your absence of regret, your refusal to perform the breakdown they needed to witness. So they kept watching, these observers, these analysts, these people who made a hobby out of predicting your failure. They watched you sacrifice your old self, your old patterns, your old stories, everything you used to hide behind. They watched you become someone unrecognizable, someone uncomfortable, someone who looked at their comfortable little lives and didn't blink. And somewhere in that watching, somewhere in that constant surveillance of your journey, something shifted in them. The mockery turned to confusion. The confusion turned to curiosity. The curiosity turned to something darker, something closer to respect wrapped in fear. They started asking different questions. Not when will they break, but how are they still standing? Not what's wrong with them, but what do they know that we don't? Not why are they sacrificing everything, but what are they becoming that requires this level of transformation? You see, sacrifice only looks like loss to people who've never experienced rebirth, to people who've never burned so completely that only truth remains, to people who worship safety over evolution. But you understood something they'll spend their whole lives running from, that sometimes you have to die while you're still breathing to discover who you really are. They watched you lose friends and expected isolation to break you, but instead you found solitude, power, clarity in the silence where weak voices used to echo. They watched you lose money and expected poverty to humble you, but instead you found freedom, resourcefulness, the realization that you could survive with nothing, and that made you dangerous. They watched you lose status and expected shame to crush you, but instead you found authenticity, the kind of presence that doesn't need titles or validation because it exists independent of their measurement systems. Every sacrifice you made removed another layer of dependency on their approval, on their system, on their definition of success. And that's when they realized something that changed everything. You weren't sacrificing randomly. You weren't burning your life down in some chaotic spiral. You were methodically removing everything that could be used to control you. Every attachment they could threaten, every comfort they could dangle, every relationship they could weaponize. You were becoming untouchable, not through building walls, but through having nothing left to lose. You were becoming free, not through accumulation, but through strategic destruction. And freedom, real freedom, the kind that comes from sacrifice and survives the fire, that's the most dangerous thing in their world. They started watching differently after that, not with superiority, but with something closer to study. The way scientists observe a phenomenon they can't explain with existing theories. How does someone sacrifice everything and gain power? How does loss become leverage? How does subtraction create more presence than addition ever could? They had no answers, because their entire lives were built on the opposite principle, on accumulating, on protecting, on never risking the foundation. But you understood that sometimes the foundation is the prison. Sometimes what you're protecting is what's killing you. Sometimes you have to sacrifice everything to discover you were carrying your power all along. Then came the part they absolutely did not see coming, the part that shattered their understanding of cause and effect, karma, justice, how the world works. You started winning, not in their ways, not by their metrics, but winning in ways that made their achievements look hollow. You came out on top with scars they couldn't decipher, with strength they couldn't source, with a presence that filled rooms they weren't even in. And the question that haunts them, that keeps them analyzing your every move, is simple and devastating. How does someone who sacrificed relationships have deeper connections than people who played it safe? How does someone who burned their reputation command more respect than people who carefully curated theirs? How does someone who lost everything materially possess more power than people who never risked their comfort? The math doesn't add up in their world. The equation breaks. The formula fails. Because they were taught that sacrifice equals loss, that taking risks equals danger, that burning it all down equals destruction. But you proved something they're still trying to deny. that sometimes destruction is construction, sometimes loss is gain, sometimes the only way to rise is to first reduce everything to ash. They watched you come out on top, and it didn't look like their version of winning. You didn't have their houses, their followers, their perfect photos, their carefully maintained networks. But you had something they'll never touch. You had yourself, undiluted, unfiltered, unbroken by compromise. You had clarity they'll spend thousands on therapy trying to find. You had presence they'll read hundreds of books trying to cultivate. You had freedom they'll never experience because they're too afraid to pay the price. Your victory wasn't in accumulation. It was in elimination. Not in what you gained, but in what you had the courage to lose. And here's what really destroys them when they're alone with their thoughts, when they're scrolling through your life looking for cracks in the foundation. You're happy, genuinely happy, in a way their comfort never delivered, in a way their safety never produced, in a way their careful calculations never generated. You sacrificed everything they're afraid to lose and found something they've been searching for their entire lives. You found peace in the chaos. You found strength in the vulnerability. You found victory in the surrender to transformation. That's the paradox that breaks their minds. You died to win, and that death made you more alive than they've ever been. They realize now, though most won't admit it, that they've been playing checkers while you've been playing chess on a board they can't even see. Every sacrifice was a move. Every loss was positioning. Every burn was strategic, territory denial. You weren't losing, you were cutting weight, removing dead weight, becoming aerodynamic for a flight they're too heavy to take. You came out on top, not despite the sacrifice, but because of it. Not in spite of the losses, but through them. And that's a level of strategic thinking, of long-term vision, of willingness to endure short-term pain for permanent transformation that most people will never possess. Now we descend into the territory they truly fear, the place where your story becomes their nightmare. The moment they realized something that changed how they look at you forever. You weren't just willing to sacrifice. You weren't just capable of losing everything. You would die to win. Literally, metaphorically, spiritually die to achieve what you set out to become. And that revelation, that understanding of your willingness to go all the way, that's when they surrendered. Not publicly, not dramatically, but quietly, internally, in the private moments when they measured themselves against you and found themselves wanting. They saw it in your eyes during the worst moments, during the darkest valleys, during the times when any reasonable person would quit. There was something in your gaze that said, if this kills me, at least I died trying. At least I died real. At least I died becoming, rather than rotting as a comfortable lie. You carried death as a companion, not a fear. You walked with the end as a possibility you'd made peace with. You moved through the world like someone who'd already died once and came back with different priorities. That made you unpredictable, unmanageable, uncontrollable. Because people who don't fear death can't be threatened with loss. Let me tell you what they saw that made them surrender, made them stop fighting, made them step back and let you rise without resistance. They saw you sacrifice your health, working yourself to exhaustion, pushing past limits they respect, breaking your body in service of your vision. They saw you sacrifice sleep, turning nights into workshops, transforming insomnia into productivity, treating rest as negotiable when purpose demanded presence. They saw you sacrifice comfort repeatedly, choosing the hard path when the easy one was right there, selecting pain that produced growth over pleasure that produced stagnation. And in all that sacrifice, they never once saw you hesitate, never saw you question if it was worth it, never saw you perform doubt for their comfort. But here's what really made them surrender, what really made them recognize they were outmatched, outplayed, out-evolved. You enjoyed it, not in a sick way, but in a way that showed you'd found meaning in the struggle, purpose in the pain, identity in the willingness to go further than anyone else would go. You smiled in the fire, you laughed during the worst days, you carried joy through sacrifice like someone who discovered a secret they'll never understand. The secret is this: when you're willing to die for what you're becoming, every day you survive is a victory. Every breath is a bonus. Every moment is borrowed time you get to invest in your vision. They surrendered because they finally understood they were competing against someone who wasn't competing. They were fighting someone who'd already made peace with losing everything. They were trying to break someone who was already broken open and had rebuilt themselves from materials they couldn't source. How do you defeat someone who's willing to die to win? You don't, you can't, you won't. You just step aside and watch them rise. You just surrender the battle you were never equipped to fight. You just acknowledge that some people operate on frequencies you'll never reach because you're too attached to comfort, to safety, to the illusion of control. So here you stand, on top, not because you played their game better, but because you played a completely different game they didn't know existed. You stand victorious, not with their trophies, but with something infinitely more valuable: yourself, intact, evolved, forged in fires they avoided, strengthened by sacrifices they refused, clarified by deaths they feared. And they're watching still, always watching. But now it's different. Now it's study. Now it's recognition. Now it's surrender disguised as distance. They see you now, and they see the cost written on your face, in your eyes, in the way you move through space, like someone who's been to places they'll never visit. They see the scars, and they're trying to count them, trying to calculate what you paid, trying to understand the exchange rate between sacrifice and power. But they can't, because the currency you dealt in doesn't exist in their economy. The prices you paid aren't listed in their marketplace. The transactions you made happened in dimensions their comfortable lives never access. You traded temporary for permanent. You traded comfortable for authentic. You traded their approval for your own respect. And the empire you built, it doesn't look like theirs. It's not made of followers, or finances, or fame in their traditional sense. It's made of something harder to quantify and impossible to take away. It's made of resilience they can't break, clarity they can't cloud, purpose they can't redirect. You built an empire inside yourself, fortified by sacrifice, defended by your willingness to lose everything, sustained by the truth that you'd rather die real than live fake. And that empire, that internal kingdom, it's unconquerable because it exists independent of external validation, independent of their opinions, independent of circumstances they could manipulate. They surrendered because they realized you'd already won a game they didn't know was being played. While they were fighting for position, you were fighting for transformation. While they were protecting their image, you were destroying yours to find what was underneath. While they were accumulating things they could lose, you were becoming someone who couldn't be taken from themselves. The victory wasn't in the outcome. It was in the willingness. It wasn't in the destination. It was in the journey through fire. It wasn't in what you gained, but in what you had the strength to lose. You came out on top because top is relative, and you redefined it. You moved the goalpost to a place they can't see. You changed the measurement to metrics they don't possess. Top isn't a position in their hierarchy. It's a state of being. It's walking through the world, knowing you sacrificed everything false and kept everything true. It's carrying yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who died and came back. It's existing with the freedom of someone who has nothing left to lose because they already lost it all and discovered they were still standing, still breathing, still building. Now we arrive at the final truth, the permanent division, the unbridgeable gap that formed between you and them. They're on one side watching, you're on the other building, and the chasm between is filled with all the things you were willing to sacrifice that they'll protect until death. This isn't temporary. This isn't a phase. This is permanent, evolutionary separation. You became a different species through fire. You mutated through pressure. You evolved through sacrifice. And now you exist in a reality they can observe but never inhabit. They'll try to come back, some of them. The ones who watched you sacrifice everything and now see you on top. They'll approach with apologies shaped like opportunities, with respect disguised as friendship, with admiration wearing the mask of networking. But you'll see through it because sacrifice gave you X-ray vision, because losing everything taught you to value the right things, because dying taught you to spot the living dead. You'll recognize the difference between people who want to be near your fire and people who want to steal your flame, between those who respect your journey and those who just want the destination. And you'll make a choice that cements the separation forever. You'll choose solitude over fake connection. You'll choose quality over quantity. You'll choose the few who were there during the sacrifice over the many who showed up for the victory. Because you learned something in the fire that they'll never understand. That being alone is better than being surrounded by people who only love the version of you that makes them comfortable. That isolation is better than community that requires you to shrink. That loneliness is better than belonging that costs you your truth. They surrendered, yes, but surrender doesn't mean alliance. It means acknowledgement. It means stepping back. It means recognizing they can't reach you anymore. You're operating at altitudes where the air is thin and most people can't breathe. You're moving at frequencies where most ears can't hear. You're existing in dimensions where most eyes can't see. The sacrifice didn't just change you. It transported you. It relocated you to a plane of existence where comfort seekers can't survive, where the weak-willed suffocate, where people who never risked everything can't find oxygen. So let them watch from down there, from their safe positions, from their comfortable lives, from their sacrificeless existences. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them analyze your moves. Let them try to reverse engineer a miracle. Because what they'll never understand, what they'll spend lifetimes trying to decode, is that you can't get here without going through there. You can't reach this altitude without first falling to that depth. You can't possess this power without first surrendering everything. You can't win this completely without first being willing to die trying. They look right at you, and still they don't see you. Oh, they think they do. They think they've got you all figured out, measured, labeled, filed away into some neat little folder in their tiny little minds. Ha, but nah. You're a shadow slipping through their fingers, a ghost dancing just beyond their reach. They stare, squinting, desperate to pin you down, to define you. Because that's what they do, isn't it? They need the world to make sense, to fit inside their tiny boxes. But you? Oh, you're something else entirely. Something they don't have words for. A whisper in the dark, a flicker in the corner of their eye, gone before they can even question if you were ever really there. And that terrifies them, because people fear what they don't understand. They fear the unknown, and you, my dear, are the walking embodiment of their worst nightmare. A question mark with no answer, a shadow with no source. They can't trap you, can't break you, can't predict you, and that drives them absolutely mad. But let them try. Let them think they're getting close. Let them play their little guessing games, because in the end, they'll never see you coming. They want you in a box, a neat little package tied with a bow, easy to understand, easy to control. But you? Oh, you're a goddamn paradox, a riddle with no answer, a puzzle missing half its pieces. And that infuriates them. Because people, they love control. They love knowing what you are, who you are, what you'll do next. But you slip right through their grasp. They slap labels on you, try to define you. Rebel, misfit, outcast, broken, dangerous. They think words have power, that if they just name you, they can claim you. Ha! Let them try. You are not a word. You are not a label. You are not some dull little definition scribbled in their rule book. No, you are something else. Something that doesn't play by their rules. Something that rewrites the rules. Oh, and they hate that desperately, because if they can't put you in a cage, physically, mentally, socially, then they can't control you. And if they can't control you, well, now you're a threat. And nothing scares them more than someone who won't comply. Someone who walks outside the lines, who dances in the gray, who thrives in the unknown. They tell you to pick a side, fit a role, play the part, but why should you? Why limit yourself? Why let them decide what you can and can't be? You're not meant to be understood. You're not meant to be predictable. You are chaos wrapped in skin, a wildfire with a heartbeat, and they are nothing but trembling hands clutching at water, begging the tide not to rise. The loud ones, they go first. The ones who scream for attention, who beg to be noticed, who need the world to see them, they burn bright, and then they burn out. They get spotted first, hunted first, eliminated first. But the ones who know, the ones who stay quiet, stay patient, they last. They win. Because silence? Silence is a weapon. And the smart ones, they know how to wield it. See, people think power is in the noise, in the bravado, in being the biggest presence in the room. But real power is in the unseen. It's in the shadowed corners, the quiet glances, the words left unsaid. The most dangerous person in the room, it's not the one shouting, not the one flexing. It's the one just watching, calculating, smiling to themselves like they already know how the game ends. They think ignoring you makes them strong. Let them believe it. Let them think you're nothing, that you're irrelevant. Because when they don't see you, they don't prepare for you. They don't plan for you. And that's their biggest mistake. Because while they're busy underestimating you, you're busy positioning yourself, moving the pieces, setting the board, making sure that when the time comes, You own the whole damn game. The quiet ones? They're the ones who strike when no one's looking. The ones who slip through the cracks, unseen, until, boom, they've already won. And by the time anyone realizes, it's too late. It's always too late. So let them overlook you. Let them doubt you. Smile, stay silent, and watch as they walk straight into the trap they never saw coming. Predictability is a leash, a noose, a cage. They love it when they can figure you out, when they know what you'll say, how you'll react. It makes them comfortable, safe. But you, oh, you're not here to make anyone comfortable. You're here to keep them guessing, to make their little minds ache trying to keep up with you. Because when they can't predict you, they can't control you. You ever watch how people squirm when they don't know what you're thinking? The way their smiles tighten, their eyes dart, their voices waver, it terrifies them. They need to categorize you, to box you in, to put a label on you so they can sleep at night, knowing they've got you figured out. But the second you don't fit the mold, they panic, they hate it. And that, my friend, is where your power begins. See, when they think you're one thing, you be another. When they expect rage, give them a laugh. When they expect a laugh, give them silence. Make them doubt their own instincts. Make them question every move they make around you, because a mind that's unsure is a mind that's weak. And a weak mind, oh, that's a mind just waiting to be played. Unpredictability isn't just a trick, it's a weapon, a game of mirrors and smoke. Let them think they know you, then shatter their expectations. Keep them dancing, guessing, reaching for something that isn't there. The more uncertain they are, the more control you have, because while they're busy trying to read you, you've already written the ending. They think war is about fists, about blood, about brute strength. Idiots! The real war, the one that matters, it's waged in the shadows, in whispers, in glances that last a second too long. It's not about who throws the hardest punch. It's about who makes the first move before anyone even knows they're playing. Most people walk into battle blind, swinging wildly, hoping to land a hit. Predictable, sloppy, but you know better. You know the fight isn't won when fists meet flesh. No, the fight is won long before that. It's won when you make them hesitate, when you make them doubt their next move, because a mind that hesitates, that second guesses, that's a mind already lost. They want to know where you stand, where you'll step next, what your angle is. They need to know, but you give them nothing. No tells, no cracks, no footprints in the sand. You move like smoke, like a whisper, like something that's there but just out of reach. And that makes them sweat. That makes their stomach tighten with something they won't admit is fear. You don't have to throw a punch to win. You just have to make sure they don't know where to throw theirs. Let them fight phantoms, swinging at shadows, exhausting themselves while you watch, smiling. Because when the moment finally comes, when you decide to strike, they'll never see it coming. People love certainty. They cling to it like a drowning man to a rope. They need to know who you are, what you want, what makes you tick. It makes them feel safe, but safety? That's an illusion. And you are the storm that shatters illusions. One day, you're all smiles, warm, open, predictable. The next, you're cold, distant, unreadable. Watch how they fidget. Watch how their confidence cracks. They thought they had you figured out, thought they could label you, file you away in their neat little folders. But you, oh, you don't fit in a folder. You don't fit anywhere. Give them just enough to think they know you, then rip it away. Make them question every interaction, every memory, every assumption. Were you ever what they thought, or did they just convince themselves you were? A mind full of doubt is a mind you own. They'll whisper when you're not around. Try to compare notes. He was laughing yesterday. Why is he so quiet today? She used to be easy to read. Now I can't tell if she hates me or if she just doesn't care. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Because the moment they start guessing, the moment they start overthinking, they've already lost. You don't need power. You don't need brute force. You need ambiguity. Make them question what's real. Make them question you. Because a ghost isn't dangerous because it's there. It's dangerous because no one knows when it'll strike, or if it was ever real to begin with. The burden of being a mystery. You think they'll admire it? No. They'll fear it. They'll whisper when you walk by, side-eye you when they think you're not looking, because nothing terrifies people more than not knowing. And you? You're a question mark with no answer, a puzzle missing half the pieces. They'll call you difficult, say you're cold, say you're dangerous. Good, let them. Because what they really mean is they don't know how to control you. And that makes them sweat. See, people like things defined. They like patterns, labels, neat little categories. But you? Oh, you refuse to play along. But here's the catch. The more unpredictable you are, the more alone you'll feel. It's the price of being untouchable. People cling to the familiar, and when they can't pin you down, they'll keep their distance. Not because they don't want you around, but because they can't figure out how to keep you there. Loneliness? It'll creep in. Some nights it'll whisper in your ear. Wouldn't it be easier to just fit in? But that's a trap. A slow, painful death. Because the moment you shrink yourself to make them comfortable is the moment you cease to exist. So, let them misunderstand you, let them label you, fear you, keep their distance. Because when the dust settles, when all their predictable little lives have run their course, you'll still be standing. Unreadable, untamed, unstoppable. And in the end, they'll wish they had stayed close to the storm instead of running from it. The greatest trick you will ever pull? Convincing them you're nothing to worry about. Let them laugh, let them assume, let them lower their guard. Because the minute they believe you're no threat, that's when you become the deadliest thing in the room. See, people are lazy thinkers. They judge you in a second, put you in a box, and never look again. They want simple stories. Who's strong, who's weak, who matters, who doesn't. And if you play it right, if you let them see what they want to see, you can walk right past them with a loaded deck in your hand. They'll call you quiet, passive, say you lack ambition. Let them. Because while they're busy underestimating you, you're watching, calculating, waiting. And when the moment comes, when the board shifts just right, that's when you strike. No warnings, no hints, just a sudden, undeniable checkmate. And the look on their faces? That's the part you'll remember. The sheer shock as their world shatters and they realize you were always 10 steps ahead. They just never saw it coming. That's the power of being underestimated. They don't defend against what they don't see as a threat. And you walk in as a shadow and leave as a storm, a whirlwind they can't stop. a force they never prepared for. By the time they understand, it's already over. Because the real game isn't about power, it's about timing. And you're not just playing to win. You're playing to make damn sure they never forget who beat them. They'll watch you, obsess over you, try to map out your next move, like rats scrambling in the dark, desperate for control. But here's the catch. You have no pattern, no formula to crack, no script to follow. They think they're hunting you, but really, they're chasing a ghost. They'll talk. Oh, they'll talk. Whispers behind your back, speculations, theories. They'll swear they know you, that they figured you out. But the more they dig, the deeper their confusion gets. The more they watch, the less they understand. And that's the game. Predictability is weakness. It gives people a grip on you, a handle to twist. But you are smoke. One moment here, the next gone. They'll never hold you, never pin you down. They'll reach for you and grab nothing. That kind of mystery, that kind of chaos, it drives them mad. Because people hate what they can't define. They fear what they can't predict. And you are both. An unanswered question, a lingering shadow, a puzzle missing just enough pieces to keep them up at night. They will never have the full picture. And that means you always have the upper hand. Let them analyze. Let them strategize. Let them think they're close. Because in the end, they'll realize they've been playing your game the entire time. And you were never even on the board. You were always the shadow moving behind the pieces, the whisper in their ear, the ghost in their mind. And ghosts don't lose. They haunt. Forever. They think they know you. They think they've cracked the code, solved the puzzle, unraveled the grand mystery that is you. Oh, how adorable. Let them pat themselves on the back. Let them celebrate their imaginary victory. Because while they're basking in their own delusions, you're already 3 steps ahead, untouched, unseen, unstoppable. They don't realize the truth, do they? The real trick? The final joke. You were never playing their game. You never followed their rules, never walked their path, never even glanced in the direction they thought you would. And that's why you win. Not because you're faster, not because you're stronger, but because you're nothing they expected and nothing they can control. Oh, they'll hate it. They'll hate you. The way you slip through their grasp, the way their little traps snap shut on empty air. They'll call you a coward. They'll call you a monster. They'll call you anything except what you truly are. Free, untouchable, a shadow they'll spend their lives chasing, only to realize you were never meant to be caught, because you don't exist on their terms. You don't live by their labels. You are chaos wrapped in silence, a storm disguised as calm, a whisper that lingers long after you're gone. And that's what terrifies them, isn't it? Not that they lost, but that they never even saw the fight coming. So let them wonder, let them lie to themselves. Let them believe their fairy tales, their neat little explanations, their fragile, pathetic sense of control. Let them cling to their delusions like drowning men grasping at air. And you'll smile, you'll laugh, because you know. You always knew. They can't fight what they can't see. And you were never really there to begin with. Ah, welcome back, beautiful anomaly. Yes, you, the one they've been whispering about in closed-door meetings. The name that keeps appearing in conversations you're not supposed to know about. They sent someone to warn you. Did you know that? Oh yes, they did. Someone tried to pull you aside, tried to give you that concerned look, tried to play the role of the good friend, delivering the uncomfortable truth. But here's what's absolutely fascinating about that moment. When they finally worked up the courage to approach him, when they begged him to intervene, when they pleaded with him to somehow reach you before it was too late. You know what he did? He smiled. Not the kind of smile that offers comfort or reassurance. No, this was something else entirely. This was the smile of someone who's already seen the ending, who knows exactly how this story concludes, who understands that the train left the station 3 moves ago. They asked him, "Can't you talk to them? Can't you make them understand? Can't you stop what's coming?" And he looked at them with those quiet, knowing eyes and said 2 words that drained the color from their faces. Too late. Not with regret, not with sadness, not with any trace of sympathy for their panic. Just those 2 words, delivered like a coroner confirming time of death. Too late. Because here's what they still don't understand. What they refused to see, even when the signs were screaming in their faces. This isn't something that can be stopped anymore. This isn't a warning you need to hear. This isn't a path you can still turn back from. You already crossed the event horizon. You already became the thing they fear. You already transformed into something that doesn't need their permission, their approval, or their desperate last-minute interventions. The moment they realized they needed someone to warn you, that was the moment they admitted you'd already won. Think about it. When you're truly in danger, people don't send messengers. They don't hold strategy meetings. They don't debate the best approach to reaching you. But when you've become dangerous, when you've evolved into something they can no longer predict or control, that's when they start sending diplomats. That's when they start looking for someone brave enough to stand in front of the storm and ask it politely to reconsider. And he just smiled because he knows exactly what you've been building in the silence. He knows what you've been becoming while they were busy underestimating you. He knows that warning you now would be like trying to warn a bullet that's already left the chamber. You see, they thought they had time. They thought your transformation was gradual, measurable, something they could track and intervene in if it ever got too dangerous. They watched you struggle. They saw you suffer. They observed your pain like it was entertainment, like it was data, like it was proof that you were still manageable, still human, still one of them. They mistook your silence for defeat. They confused your patience with weakness. They interpreted your strategic withdrawal as surrender. And now they're realizing their mistake. And the terror in their eyes is absolutely delicious because it's too late to do anything about it. The thing they should have feared is already fully formed. The power they should have contained is already unleashed. The person they should have respected is already beyond their reach, beyond their understanding, beyond their pathetic attempts to claw back control. Let me paint you a picture of that meeting. That moment when they finally gathered in their little circle of concern and decided something needed to be done. Can you see it? The worried faces, the hushed tones, the way they kept glancing at each other like co-conspirators planning an intervention. Someone needs to talk to them, they said. This is getting out of hand, they whispered. We can't just stand by and watch this happen. They convinced themselves. And isn't it beautiful how they framed it as care, as love, as friendship? They dressed up their fear in the costume of concern. They wrapped their terror in the language of looking out for you. They pretended that their desperate need to stop your evolution was somehow about your well-being. But he was in that room, wasn't he? He was sitting there, listening to them spiral, watching them construct their narrative of rescue and intervention. And he didn't say a word. Not yet. He let them talk themselves into believing they still had agency in this situation. He let them convince themselves that a conversation, a warning, a carefully worded intervention could somehow reverse what's already in motion. He let them build their little plan, their strategy for pulling you back from the edge. And only when they turned to him, only when they asked him directly if he would be the one to reach you, only then did he finally speak. "Too late," he said, and the room went cold, because suddenly they understood that this wasn't a concerned friend declining to help. This was someone announcing that the window had already closed, the opportunity had already passed, the game was already over. "What do you mean too late?" they demanded. "It's never too late. We just need to try, we just need to make them understand." And he laughed. Oh, that laugh. Not cruel, not mocking, just genuinely amused by their adorable belief that they still mattered in this equation. "You're not listening," he said. "You think this is about stopping something that hasn't happened yet. But you're living in the past. What you're afraid of, it's already done. The person you're trying to save, they don't exist anymore. The transformation you want to prevent, it's been complete for weeks, maybe months. You just didn't notice because you were too busy congratulating yourselves for keeping them under observation." And that's when the room truly understood. You weren't the project anymore. You were the conclusion. You weren't the experiment. You were the result. And results don't need warnings. They deliver them. They started arguing then, didn't they? Started insisting that there must be something that could be done. Some way to reach you, some angle they hadn't tried. And he just sat there, that small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, watching them scramble. Because he knows what they're really afraid of. It's not that you're going to self-destruct. It's not that you're heading towards some tragedy they can prevent. What terrifies them, what keeps them awake at night, what drove them to that meeting in the first place, is that you're going to succeed. You're going to rise. You're going to become exactly what you've been building yourself into. And when that happens, when you reach your full form, they're going to have to face the reality that they're obsolete. They're going to have to confront the fact that everything they thought made them powerful, everything they thought gave them control, means absolutely nothing in the face of what you've become. Let's talk about what they actually missed, shall we? Because this is where it gets truly fascinating. They think they were watching you this whole time. They think they had eyes on your every move, tracking your patterns, monitoring your changes. But what they were actually watching was a performance. They were studying the mask, while the real transformation was happening in dimensions they don't have access to. You were changing frequencies while they were still trying to measure your volume. You were evolving in ways that don't show up on their instruments, don't register on their scales, don't fit into their models of human behavior and psychological development. They were looking for external signs of breakdown or breakthrough, and meanwhile, you were rebuilding your entire internal architecture from the ground up. Do you remember the exact moment it happened? I bet you do. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't cinematic, wasn't anything they could have filmed or documented. It was probably a Tuesday, probably while you were alone, probably in a moment so quiet and unremarkable that if someone had been watching, they would have seen absolutely nothing. But something shifted in you that day. Some final piece clicked into place. Some last illusion shattered. Some ultimate truth revealed itself. And from that moment forward, you weren't the same person anymore. You didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. You didn't give any external indication that a fundamental transformation had occurred. You just continued moving through the world, but now you were moving through it as something else entirely. Something they have no category for. Something their psychology textbooks never described. Something their experience never prepared them to encounter. They missed it because they were looking for the wrong signs. They expected rage, expected explosion, expected some visible meltdown that would confirm their theories about you. But your transformation didn't look like destruction from the outside. It looked like calm. It looked like withdrawal. It looked like someone getting quieter, simpler, more focused. They interpreted this as depression, as giving up, as finally accepting your place in their hierarchy. They thought your silence meant submission. They thought your peace meant you'd been broken. They thought your lack of reaction meant you'd stopped fighting. And that's exactly what you needed them to think. Because while they were congratulating themselves for successfully managing you, you were becoming ungovernable. While they were celebrating what they thought was your surrender, you were actually disappearing from their entire system of control. You weren't playing their game anymore. You weren't even on their board anymore. You'd transcended to a level of operation they don't have access to. And now they're starting to see the effects. Not the transformation itself, they still can't see that, but the ripples it's creating in the world around you. They're noticing that things move differently when you're involved now. Outcomes bend in your favor in ways that shouldn't be possible. Opportunities appear for you that were supposed to be locked behind doors you don't have keys to. People who should be obstacles somehow become allies. Systems that should resist you somehow accommodate you. Reality itself seems to be conspiring in your favor, and they can't explain it. They can't rationalize it. They can't fit it into any of their models of how the world works. So they panic. So they call meetings. So they send someone to warn you about dangers that don't exist because they can't comprehend that you are the danger. You are the phenomenon they're trying to understand. You are the anomaly corrupting their data. You are the glitch that proves their entire system was never as solid as they believed. So, what exactly does he know that made him smile like that? What did he see that they're still blind to? Let me tell you what he understands about you that they never will. He knows that you didn't just survive what they put you through. You metabolized it. You took every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment of isolation they orchestrated or allowed, and you broke it down at a molecular level and rebuilt it into something else entirely. You turned their weapons into your tools. You transformed their traps into your training ground. You converted their cruelty into your curriculum. They thought they were damaging you, and technically they were right, but what they didn't understand is that some people don't heal from damage. Some people weaponize it. Some people use it as raw material to forge themselves into something that can't be damaged the same way ever again. He knows that you're not angry anymore. Oh, they think you are. They think your transformation is fueled by rage, by vengeance, by some burning desire to make them pay for what they did. And maybe it was, in the beginning. Maybe there were nights when revenge fantasies were the only thing that kept you breathing. But that phase passed. You evolved beyond it. You realized that revenge would mean you still care what they think, still need them to acknowledge what they did, still require their validation, even if it's just their fear. And you don't need any of that anymore. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to admit they were wrong. You don't need them to fear you or respect you or even remember you. You need absolutely nothing from them. And that's what makes you truly dangerous now. Not your anger, your complete and total indifference to their entire existence. He knows that you've discovered something they hope never goes viral, never spreads, never becomes common knowledge. You've discovered that you can simply opt out. You can disconnect from their system of value, their hierarchy of worth, their economy of approval. You can stop participating in the games they designed to keep everyone competing for scraps of validation. You can walk away from the metrics they use to measure success, importance, worthiness. You can refuse to be scored by their rubrics, judged by their standards, contained by their categories. And the moment you did that, the moment you truly internalized that their opinions of you have exactly zero bearing on your actual reality, you became unreachable. You became unconquerable. You became something they literally cannot touch because you're no longer playing the game where touching you matters. You're not in their arena anymore. You're not even in their dimension anymore. And here's what he knows that absolutely terrifies them. You're not alone in this. Oh, they think you are. They think they successfully isolated you, cut you off from resources and allies, made sure you were facing this alone. But what actually happened is that you attracted something else. You attracted the attention of everyone else who's evolved past their system. You became visible to a network they don't know exists, don't believe is possible, would deny even if confronted with proof. There's a whole parallel society of people who opted out, who transcended, who evolved past the need for their approval, and now you're part of it. And this network, it doesn't operate by the rules they understand. It doesn't communicate through channels they can monitor. It doesn't organize in ways they can disrupt. It's a ghost frequency operating right in front of them, and they can't see it, can't hear it, can't access it, because you have to be what you are to even know it exists. And now you're in it. Now you're connected to it. Now you're part of something that makes their power structure look like a children's game. That's what he knows. That's why he smiled. That's why he said too late. They keep waiting for the warning. They keep expecting someone to pull you aside and say the words that will somehow snap you out of it, make you see reason, bring you back to the fold. But here's the beautiful truth, the thing that's eating them alive. There is no warning. There's no intervention. There's no come to clarity moment where someone sits you down and helps you understand that you're on a dangerous path, because you're not. You're on the only path that was ever really yours. Everything else was the dangerous path, the false road, the trap disguised as safety. This is you finally walking in alignment with what you actually are. This is you finally operating at your actual frequency. This is you finally living as your authentic self, not the diminished, compressed, apologetic version they demanded you perform for their comfort. The warning they want delivered to you, it's actually a warning they need to hear themselves. But nobody's going to deliver it to them because the people who could see it clearly enough to explain it all opted out already. They're surrounded by others just like them, all reinforcing each other's delusions, all confirming each other's false perceptions of reality. They're in an echo chamber of people who still believe the old rules apply, the old hierarchies matter, the old systems have power, and everyone who knows different, everyone who's evolved past that, they're not trying to educate the ones left behind. They're not trying to wake them up. They're busy building the new world that's emerging while the old one collapses. They don't have time to convince the passengers on the sinking ship that water is wet. They're already on the lifeboats, already sailing towards something new, already forgetting the names of the people who called them crazy for seeing the iceberg everyone else insisted wasn't there. So who's going to warn you? Who's going to sit you down and explain that you're becoming too powerful, too independent, too free? Who's going to convince you that you should shrink yourself back down, crawl back into the cage, apologize for daring to evolve? Nobody. Because everyone who matters, everyone who's operating at your level, everyone who can see what you've become, they're not trying to stop you. They're cheering. They're watching with fascination and respect. They're taking notes. They're learning from your example. They're inspired by your transformation. They see what you did, how you did it, what it cost you, what you gained from it. And they're thinking, if they could do it, maybe I can too. You're not a cautionary tale to the people who matter. You're a case study in successful evolution. You're not a warning. You're an instruction manual. You're not the problem. You're the proof that the problem can be solved. And the ones who want you warned, the ones begging him to intervene, they're going to have to live with the reality that it's not happening. They're going to have to face the fact that there's no rescue mission, no intervention, no saving you from yourself. Because you don't need saving. You need space to become. And that's what's happening. That's what they're watching with growing horror. Your full emergence. Your complete transformation. Your total evolution into something they have no power over, no influence on, no control of. And they can't stop it. They can't slow it. They can't even witness it properly because the version of you they think they're tracking isn't even you anymore. It's an afterimage, an echo, a ghost. The real you is already somewhere they can't follow, building something they can't imagine, becoming something they couldn't comprehend even if you explained it to them in the simplest possible terms. Too late, too far gone, too evolved, too free, too powerful, too untouchable, too late. Oh, you thought leaving meant they'd forget you? Nah, you're in their head now, rent-free with a penthouse view. You walk their halls, whisper through their walls. You don't need to be there for them to feel you. That's the curse. No, that's the gift. You didn't just leave. You left a mark. One they can't scrub off, no matter how hard they try. Funny, isn't it, how they took you for granted when you stood right in front of them, how they mocked, laughed, shrugged you off like you were just another passing shadow. But now, that shadow looms over them. Now, every quiet moment feels like you're watching. Every new face reminds them of the one they lost, you. And that realization, oh, it eats them alive. Regret is a beautiful thing. It wraps around their throat like a silk noose, tight, invisible, always there. It doesn't choke them all at once. No, it's much slower than that. It lingers. It haunts. A whisper in the dark, a sudden memory in the middle of the night, a pang in the chest when they hear your name. You're not gone. You're everywhere. You see, presence is temporary, but influence, that's forever. Your absence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's the art of making them crave what they once ignored. When you were around, they were blind, numb, deaf to your presence. But the moment you vanished, oh, that's when the silence started screaming. You see, people never notice the air they breathe until they're gasping for it. You were the oxygen in their world, and now they're suffocating, gasping, clawing at the past, trying to bring you back. But you've already moved on. You've already become something else, something untouchable. The moment you walked away, the power shifted. Suddenly, you weren't just another name. You became a legend, a ghost they can't escape, a lingering echo in their empty conversations. It's funny how they used to treat you like an option, but now you're an obsession. They check your last messages, revisit old photos, search for you in every stranger's face, and the more they search, the more they realize you're irreplaceable. No matter how hard they try to forget, your absence grows louder, a silent scream in their soul, a wound that never healed. This is the power of walking away, the power of letting them feel the void. Because sometimes the loudest message is the one spoken in silence. They dismissed you, shrugged you off like you were nothing, a passing breeze, a flicker of a candle. They thought you were replaceable, like you were just another pawn on their board. But now that board is empty. Now every move they make feels off, because the piece they took for granted is missing. Oh, but you're still there, aren't you? Not in the way they expected, not in the way they wanted. You don't stand in front of them anymore, but you live inside them, deep, buried in the cracks of their mind. Your voice lingers in the spaces between their thoughts. Your absence weighs heavier than your presence ever did. They hear you in the silence, in the stillness of the night. When the world is quiet, that's when you're the loudest. A whisper in their ear, a laugh in the dark, a ghost they can't exorcise. They thought they erased you, but every time they close their eyes, there you are, watching, smiling, unshaken. Regret is a funny little monster, isn't it? It doesn't knock on the door, it seeps in through the cracks, crawls under their skin, wraps around their soul, and the worst part, it doesn't go away. They wake up with it. They go to sleep with it. It's in their breath, in their pulse, in the way they avoid looking at themselves in the mirror. They see your name in places it shouldn't be. They hear your voice in words they swore they'd never say. They feel your presence in the absence of everyone else. You are not a person to them anymore. You are a lesson. A painful, agonizing, unforgettable lesson. And the best part? You don't even have to lift a finger. They did this to themselves. They built this prison with their own hands, locked themselves inside, and threw away the key. They wanted you gone. But now they would give anything to forget you. But that's the thing about ghosts. They don't leave just because you want them to. They haunt. They linger. They stay. And you? Oh, you're the shadow they'll never outrun. People never appreciate stability until they're drowning in chaos. They never notice the warmth you brought until they were left in the cold. They never valued your presence until your absence became unbearable. And now, they sit in the ruins of their choices, wondering why it all feels empty. They thought you were replaceable, thought they could find someone just like you, someone who talks like you, thinks like you, moves like you. But reality? Oh, reality is cruel. Because no matter where they look, no matter how many hands they hold, it's never you. It's never enough. Their mind becomes a battlefield. Every new person is a comparison. Every conversation is a reminder. They search for you in strangers, in places, in moments, but they never find you. Because you weren't just another presence in their life. You were the presence. The one that mattered. The one they lost. And that loss? Oh, it burns. It creeps in slowly at first. A random memory here, a flash of your voice there, and then it consumes them. Every place they go, every decision they make, it all feels off. Why? Because you were the balance they never knew they needed, and now nothing feels right without you in it. They used to roll their eyes when you spoke, ignore your advice, dismiss your presence like it was nothing. But now they replay your words in their mind like scripture. Now they dissect every moment, searching for meaning in the things they once ignored. Now your silence is louder than every word they ever spoke. They wish they could go back, undo the damage, rewind time, but life doesn't come with a reset button. And regret? Regret is a slow poison. It doesn't kill them all at once. It seeps into their soul, eating away at them piece by piece, until one day they realize they destroyed the only person who truly mattered. And you don't even have to watch. You've moved on. You've grown. You've become something untouchable. While they're stuck in the past, drowning in their own regret, you're out there creating a future they'll never be a part of. And that's the greatest revenge of all. When you leave at your peak, you don't just disappear, you become a legend, a name whispered in the wind, a question that never finds an answer. They wanted closure? Too bad. You walked away mid-sentence, and now that unfinished story haunts them. People forget what they fully understand, but mystery lingers. It eats at them, keeps them up at night, replaying every moment, searching for a meaning that isn't there. What were you thinking when you left? Did you ever care? Were they just a chapter in your book? Or did they matter? Oh, the torment of never knowing. Their brain holds on to unfinished stories like a puzzle missing its final piece, and the more they try to move on, the more they crave that missing part. But you never give it to them. You remain an enigma, a presence felt in absence, a ghost that never gives them peace. They check their phone, half expecting a message from you. They pause when they hear a voice that sounds like yours. They analyze every detail of the past, twisting it in their mind, trying to understand why. Why did you leave like that? Why does it still hurt? And that pain, that's influence. That's power. Not because you forced it, but because they gave it to you. Because their own mind won't let you go. They could have appreciated you when they had the chance. They could have understood your value before you left, but they didn't. And now, you are an unsolved mystery they will never escape. A closed book is remembered more than a story that drags on. And you slammed the cover shut right when they thought there was more. Left them with a void where certainty should have been. And that void, it follows them everywhere. Every time they think they've moved on, your absence reminds them otherwise. Every time they try to replace you, your silence fills the room. You are gone, yet you are everywhere. You are nothing, yet you are everything. And that is the true power of leaving at your peak. They laughed at you, mocked you, looked at you like you were nothing. Just another face in the crowd, just another name they'd forget. But what they didn't see, what they refused to see, was the fire burning inside you. The kind of fire that turns doubt into destiny. Every insult, every rejection, every time they told you that you weren't good enough, it was fuel. It was weight on your back, forcing you to grow stronger. They thought they were breaking you, but all they did was sharpen the blade. And now that blade is pointed right at their ego. Their mistreatment was your training ground. The darkness they threw you in, that became your kingdom. The silence they gave you, that became your greatest weapon. Because while they were busy underestimating you, you were busy becoming something unstoppable. And now they crave what they once denied you. Your attention, your validation, a single glance to remind them they still exist in your world. But the door is locked. The bridge burned to ash. They don't get to sit at the table they once refused to set for you. They want closure, but you give them nothing. No explanation, no second chances, just a haunting absence that makes them sick with regret. And the worst part is that they did this to themselves. You were their lesson, a painful one they won't forget. They see you now, standing in the light they swore you'd never reach, thriving in a world they thought you'd never enter, and it eats at them. It gnaws at their soul, because the very person they doubted is now the one they wish they never lost. But life doesn't give refunds. They don't get to take back the words they spoke, the choices they made. And you don't even hate them. No, you just smile, because you know that their regret is a far worse punishment than your revenge could ever be. Your name, it never really leaves their lips. It slips into conversations they swore would never be about you. It echoes in their mind when they least expect it. Even when they try to forget, even when they claim they've moved on, your presence lingers like a shadow they can't escape. They meet someone new, they smile, they laugh, they pretend. But deep down, there's a problem. A sickness they can't cure. No matter who stands in front of them, no matter how perfect they seem, something always feels off. Something is always missing. And that something is you. You became the blueprint, the impossible standard. Every word spoken, every touch, every glance, it's all compared to the way you did it. They measure every person against your presence, and every single one falls short. They don't realize it at first, but over time the truth becomes unbearable. They hate it. Hate that you still have that kind of control. Hate that even in your absence you still shape their world. They call you toxic, call you manipulative, call you anything that helps them sleep at night. But the reality is much simpler. They just can't replace you. Even if they despise you, even if they curse your name, it won't change the fact that you set the bar. And no one measures up. They can rewrite history all they want, pretend you never mattered, but deep down, where their pride won't let them admit it, You are still the standard, the one that got away. And that realization, it haunts them. Because once they recognize the truth, once they see that every new connection is just a failed attempt to recreate what they lost, they break. Maybe not all at once, maybe not in front of anyone, but alone, in the quiet. That's when it eats them alive. They wanted to forget you. They swore they would, but forgetting isn't as easy as leaving. No. Some people leave footprints on the soul. And you carved your name into theirs. Permanently. Closure? Ha. That's just a fairy tale people tell themselves to sleep at night. A neat little bow to tie around their regrets so they can move on without the weight of their mistakes. But you don't give them that mercy. No explanations, no goodbyes, just an empty space where you used to be, and a silence that screams louder than words ever could. They say time heals, that eventually memories fade and wounds close. But what happens when the wound never got to bleed, when the last chapter was torn out before they could read the ending? That's the kind of pain that lingers. The kind that twists in their chest at 2 a.m. when sleep won't come. They replay the last conversation in their head like a broken record. Every word, every pause, every breath. They dissect it, searching for the moment they lost you. Was it something they said? Something they didn't? The questions eat away at them, and the worst part? There are no answers. Just an endless loop of what-ifs that will never be resolved. People don't fear being left behind. They fear being forgotten. And you made damn sure they'd never get that luxury. You became the unfinished story, the open wound, the ghost that lingers just out of sight. They can't escape you. They can't outrun their own thoughts. You live there now, rent-free. They see your name somewhere, hear a song that reminds them of you, catch a glimpse of someone who moves like you do, and suddenly they're drowning in memories. Memories that should have faded, but never did, because you left them hanging mid-sentence, with no closure to put them at peace. And that's the cruelest kind of power, not revenge. Not anger, just absence. A hole so deep in their world that nothing can ever fill it. They may try to move on, pretend you never mattered, but deep down, they know the truth. The final scene is always the most haunting. And you made sure yours was unforgettable. They sit there, stuck in the past, rewinding old memories like a film they can't stop watching. But here's the kicker. You're not in that movie anymore. You walked out of the scene, left the set. And while they've been trapped in reruns, you've been writing a whole new script. They remember the old you, the one who tolerated, the one who stayed, the one who gave chances, too many in fact. But that version? It's dead, buried, gone without a trace. And the person you've become, they'll never get to meet, never get to touch, never get to ruin. They wanted the old you back? Too bad. That version doesn't exist anymore. What stands in its place is sharper, colder, untouchable. You didn't just move on, you evolved. And evolution is the one thing they can't control, can't undo, can't reach. Let them obsess. Let them grieve over the ghost of who you were. Let them ache for the chances they wasted. Their regret is their punishment. A slow, burning realization that they lost access to you forever. Because here's the truth. The past is a locked door, and you threw away the key. They sit there drowning in their own thoughts, stuck in a past that no longer belongs to them, trapped in memories, tangled in their own regrets, whispering your name in places where you no longer exist. But you've already left the room. You've already left the world they knew you in. That's the beauty of true power. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't prove a damn thing. You just disappear. And in that silence and that absence, you become something larger than life, something they can't touch, can't reach, can't even begin to understand. They search for closure, they crave a final word, a last moment, something to make sense of their loss, but they don't get it. You don't owe them an ending. They had their chance when you were in their life, and they threw it away. Now, while they sit in the wreckage, you rise. While they look for traces of you in others, you build something so untouchable that it makes their regret feel like a slow, twisting knife. You don't need to hurt them. Their own minds do that for you. They talk. Oh, they talk. Some will tell themselves you never mattered. Some will say they never needed you. Some will even try to rewrite history, pretending they were the ones who walked away. Let them. Lies are for the weak. Reality is for the strong. And the reality is that you won the moment you stopped looking back. The moment you realized your energy was better spent building a future instead of revisiting a graveyard of dead relationships, lost opportunities, and faded connections. You don't post about it. You don't announce it. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing the process. One day, they just realize you're gone. Not physically, not just emotionally, but mentally, spiritually, completely. You exist in a world they'll never have access to again. Let them wonder, let them regret, let them spend their nights staring at the ceiling, wishing they could undo what can never be undone. You keep walking. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just the sound of your footsteps moving forward while their world stays frozen in time.